Hello friends, for today's video I'm going to be doing a US versus UK book covers. And I thought it'd be a good time to do this because we're coming up on the holiday season. I know a lot of people are probably going to look at some books that they've picked up this year from the library or listen to audiobooks of, and if you're interested in a physical copy, you might actually want to pick one up when there's going to be sales and those sorts of things. Maybe you'll get some money for Christmas. But I know if you're like me that sometimes I'll get a copy of something and then I see the UK cover and I'm like, dang it, because the UK cover is way better. Or maybe the opposite is true. Maybe if you're in the UK, sometimes our covers are better, rarely. But regardless, I wanted to showcase some US versus UK covers from new releases this year so that if you do want to pick these up, you now have the side-by-side to compare. And then also just because I think it's kind of fun for us, even if you're not considering purchasing these, it's just kind of fun sometimes to look at the different cover styles from one country to the next, from one place to the next, look at the different art styles, and just see which ones we like better. I actually found that this time, US delivered, which is great. I did a US versus UK video earlier in the year, also going over some new releases. So if after seeing this one, you're interested in some others, I'll have that one linked. But I'm going to start today with one of my favorite books that I've picked up from this year, which would be Divine Rivals. And I gotta say, the US, for me, totally wins, even though the US cover is pretty basic. But the cover for the UK, it's very young looking and very youthful looking, and I think that the characters, the way the artist drew them, that's definitely what the characters look like. I'm only focusing on books that I have read or books that I have read the first in the series or something like that, and maybe I haven't picked up the sequels yet, but I know enough about the story generally to be able to compare the covers. But anyway, with this first one, I read this, and that is what the characters are described looking like. So much of the story is about these letters they send to each other and them getting to know each other through these letters, but also getting to know each other through the hardships of war. And I think that the time period that the book is capturing is definitely present in their clothing, and I think that all of it's depicted as it is described in the book, which a lot of us that's what we want with covers, because sometimes you see a cover and you're like, who even is that person? Because there will be a person on the cover that looks nothing like anybody in the book. So I like that all of that is true to the story. I've just found that with most of the covers I've seen, because there are some special editions of this one as well, a lot of the covers look so light and cheery and sweet, and those moments are in the story, and those moments are beautiful, but they are not all the story is. It's actually quite heavy and tragic, and I don't know that this cover makes me feel like there's going to be a lot of heaviness to it. It feels like it's pulling definitely on the whimsical side of things, the letter writing side of things. And that's not bad if that's what we want to focus on. I just think that the other one, the flowers, because Iris, she talks about how, that's the main character's name, how everybody always thinks like your eye when they find out her name is Iris, but then there's also this flower. So I think that having that on the cover is great. I like the color combination. It's more muted, which I feel better represents it's not that the story feels muted, but just like that there is this sadness, but there's beauty in the sadness as well. So it's definitely one that you kind of have to reach to see the elements of this that are tied to the story, but I just think it's a little bit more capturing the tone, in my opinion, as opposed to individual details. And also I just like the style a lot. The special editions, which are not going to be the ones we talk about today, but I just gotta say, oh my gosh, the Owl Crate one is so pretty. I'm so sad that I don't have that edition. I'm not that sad, it's fine. But the Owl Crate one is beautiful. Anyway, of these two, and to kick it off, I would say US actually wins. And I'm gonna keep score as we go through here, and I'm curious if you would like to play along, you can keep score as well. If you are going to pick this book up, as far as literally purchasing a physical copy, which one would you get? Or did you love it so much that you're like, I want all of them? Because I understand that too. Next up we have The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. Okay, I have ranted enough about this one. I don't need to go on a rant again. I'll just say that I always appreciate cohesiveness. I like when you have a series where the covers match, and I definitely think the UK cover, it matches the original trilogy. However, it's pretty bland. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of simple, and if it wasn't for the matching factor, I would immediately be like, oh, the other one's way striking. That wasn't a sentence. It's much more striking than the UK one. I think the US one, the imagery is interesting. The color choice is kind of bizarre. I've not seen the like orange into pinks with that vivid, deep blue color. I've not really seen that before. I just think it really stands out and it's very different. However, I do not like the shenanigans they pulled with changing the covers of the first ones, and I don't think the covers of the first ones did nearly as good of a job as this one. It just kind of feels like they phoned it in a little bit for it to match, except for they're not going to match because they made them in paperback and this one's in hardback, which I knew was going to happen. Anyway, I said I wouldn't rant. So if I'm just looking at these covers, for me, US wins. However, if I'm factoring in the matching quality, then UK wins. So I feel like it's kind of a tie. I don't know. I think I'll just stick to I don't know. I'm just going to say it's a tie. I'm not going to overthink it. It's fine. Moving on now to a horror fantasy. I think it's considered a novella technically, and that would be The Salt Grows Heavy. And this is a story about basically a murderous Little Mermaid. It's very dark and there's lots of body horror. And the writing is really over the top and very dense, but quite pretty. I mean, the author clearly has such a grasp on the language to the point where I'm like, I don't know what some of these words mean. I don't know what a lot of these words mean, but that's okay. I like that you're going for it. And I think that's great for there to be books out there that really challenge you, which this one definitely did in the vocabulary department. But, I mean, hands down the US cover for me, which is the one, if it's not clear, I have the US on one side of the screen and then the UK on the other side of the screen. So it's always going to be the same. The red one is the US cover and the other one is the UK cover. US for me, hands down. It's so odd. The style is abstract but eerie, and the kind of stacking of these skulls and having this weird mermaid person, the way they're drawn. And there's also this witch doctor person that they walk around with, and the way that person is drawn, I'm like, it's great, it's perfect. I think it perfectly captures the story. Whereas the other one is just, I don't know, it's fine. I think it's kind of generic a little bit. It is gross looking. I mean, the like yellow teeth are kind of icky to me. So I don't even like looking at it, which I suppose is a good thing because it is grotesque. The story is icky, but I kind of want to look at my covers, you know? I want to like to look at them, and I don't like to look at that one. So props to the way they captured the icky factor, but I don't like it. So US, and I just think that the US, the style is incredible, and I like the way that the font kind of goes into the characters. All around, yeah, US wins. Next up, we have Thornhedge. Thornhedge is another very, very, very short, novella in this case. And it is very much a fairy tale. It feels like a fairy tale. And I think both of these capture that fairy tale feeling. I think the UK one might capture the fairy tale feeling a little bit more. It kind of feels storybook is what I'm trying to say. And I don't think the other one feels as storybook, but it's still got the elements. I mean, it's got the border, the design around the edges. They both have that. The US cover in the background, you see this castle, but it looks very just, look at me, I'm a castle that exists out in the open. And the whole idea is this tower. It's not necessarily, it's more the tower that's the focus. You can't even really see it after enough time has passed. And I think the other one, it shows this tower, and the way that you see these lines going around it sort of is implying that there's something mysterious and there's something magical going on. So I think that the UK one maybe captures the story a little bit better. But there's something about the US one I just really like. I don't want to be a wimp and say a tie again. I feel like I should choose. I don't know though. I'm gonna say tie. I don't want to sit here and make you all have to sit with me as I contemplate for forever. I'm just gonna say tie because I don't want to pick. Next up we have The Weaver and the Witch Queen. This one's interesting in that the UK one, the style matches the style of Witch's Heart, which is another story by Genevieve Gornichek. And I like that they had this similar style from the first to the second. However, I feel like this one is much better than the first one. The first one I didn't really like. I thought it was pretty basic. And I really liked Witch's Heart, and I thought about getting the UK cover, but I'm like, I don't really like it, so I don't want to get this just to get it. So I didn't. And the UK one, though, for this this one. They're not sequels. They're just both written by this author. The UK one for The Weaver and the Witch Queen, I think, is very pretty, and I definitely think it captures, there is something to do with a bird in the story, and they have these certain animals that sometimes the witches can shift into. So they have the bird there. The style of it and the font and everything, I think, is very, very well done. And I think that the colors are pretty. I like the simplicity of it. I think it would be gorgeous if I actually had the physical copy. I think it would look very pretty. However, the US one, I think it definitely also matches the first book that this author had, The Witch's Heart. And the styles are really great. And so for that reason, because both this one and Witch's Heart both are great, in my opinion, for the American covers, and both look similar, they're both strong. So it's like they're strong together. With the other one, it's like I like this one, but I didn't like the other one. So it kind of brings it down. And I know that once again we're running into the shades thing where it's like it's not really about the matching of covers, but if you are watching this video with the intent of trying to decide for purchasing reasons, for me, I think US, those two go together better than the two for UK. But if you disagree, then, you have that knowledge now. You can see the side-by-sides. I also really like having the physical copy. I've actually been able to see the detail, the really, really, really subtle vertical lines on the US cover. When you look at it, it looks woven. And I really like it. It doesn't really look like that in digital versions, but when you see it in person, it does. And that look is really cool. That detail I thought was great. And I just feel like they capture more of the details. I mean, they have what I'm going to call the Viking longship. You can kind of see at the bottom. They have the axe, the bird, the soldiers. You see that one of the characters is more so the witch, and the other one is more the kind of healer character. So you see the differences in these characters. The style feels very much like that kind of older art. So I think US wins for me on this one. Next, we have Immortal Longings. This is one where when I was showing my husband these different images, we disagreed. He really liked the US one. He thought it was really cool. He liked the style. And I will say that the details are pretty cool in that, how many of you noticed the character profiles on the bottom and the top? Not the characters just standing there, but their faces. I feel like you don't notice it upon first glance, but I liked that incorporation. It does look like the characters as they're described. But I don't know. There's something about it that I'm just like, it has details incorporated, but it feels kind of bland, oddly, even though I sometimes like subtle, I sometimes like simple, but this one for me, it just feels maybe a little too simple for my taste. Whereas Immortal Longings UK cover, to me, I think the color combo is very interesting. I avoid very often green and red unless it's Christmas time, because I'm like, oh, those are Christmas colors. It's a weird matching thing. And I gotta say, I mean, that doesn't look like Christmas to me. They somehow managed to capture red and green together without making me think Christmas. So I really like that. I like that you have the main character sort of front and center and that you capture the city. And also, she kind of looks like she's looking around a bit and like she's glancing up. There are cameras that watch the competitors within these games, and then they broadcast that. But also, they never know who they're going to have to fight, because they could have an enemy come up on them. They kind of know when someone's around, but they don't always quite know where they are exactly and who it is that they're going to have to fight. So I feel like her looking around captures that very subtly, and it captures the setting. So I don't know. For me, I just think that the UK one, it has that little something extra in it that I think is really, really cool. And I like that the environment, the setting looks like how it's described in the book. So that's another, maybe I just like that art style too, a little bit. So yeah, I think UK wins for me on this one, but I think that both covers are solid. It's just a matter of your preference with art style, which is true of all of these, but I just feel like there's some where it's very rare. There's certain instances where I feel like nobody likes the US more than the UK or vice versa. This next one is one of the ones in my head that I'm like, oh my gosh, the UK, it's not even a question a little bit. The UK one is so much better, and that would be Foxglove. I have said many a time, I do not like the hyper-focused, on-the-face type of covers. It's very rare. I feel like you can do it sometimes, but it's got to be it's got to be more stylized. So, for example, the UK cover of The Hero of Ages, where it's pretty much just like right in Vin's face, that one, I'm like, yeah, I kind of like that cover, but it's minimal, and you have the other things going on, so it works. But this one is just like, look at this chick's face. It's like, it's so right there, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. The first one had the same thing where her jaw, it's like, look at my perfectly defined jaw. It's so nice. That was the first one. So they match, they go together. The only reason I would not have gotten the US cover, except the naked hardback is gorgeous. So I will say, if you're curious, the naked hardback is very pretty. So if you don't like this cover, you can just take the sleeve off and then you'll be good. The UK one is so much better though. That cover is, the purples are beautiful, the pinks are beautiful, the animal imagery is great. It goes with the first one, because the first one you see the birds, and then this one I have the fox grabbing the bird. I'm just like, it's great. That fox looks super cool and kind of creepy. Oh my gosh, I just think it's so much better. I suppose the US maybe captures that gothic feeling a little bit more than the other one, but this is one of those few times where I'm like, I don't really care if it captures certain elements that the other one doesn't. I just think that UK one is great. I know a lot of people like that style of US cover though. It's just not for me. So UK wins. This last one, I don't know. This is another one of those like, don't make me choose, which nobody's making me choose. I'm doing this of my own free will, and I still am like, I don't want to decide. And that would be He Who Drowned the World. This is a sequel to She Who Became the Sun. Oh, geez. I might have to go UK. I like both, though. I like that they have a similar color pattern. I liked that the first ones also had similar color patterns. So the best of both worlds is, if you like this series, I'm like, well, just get both, the US and the UK, because they match their individual ones. Like the US one matches the sequel, US one. The UK one matches its sequel, UK one. And then they kind of go with each other as well. The US goes with the UK, except for their different sizes. But that doesn't really matter that much. I just think both are great. I can't have another tie, so I'm going to give it to UK. But that's it. I think that for once, it was not so easy. US has kind of finally, I think, started to compete with the UK covers, with some exceptions here and there. But I'm very curious, were there some that you agreed with, that you very much disagreed with? And there aren't actually, I found when I was looking at a lot of the new releases from this year, there isn't a lot of difference between US and UK, which is kind of unusual to me. A lot of them have the same covers. So I would love to go through more of these. It's just that it doesn't seem to be that much of a difference, which I suppose, given how indecisive I am, is probably a good thing, because then I don't have to think about it. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on these. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. If you're looking to see more, I'll have the other video linked, and I'll see you all later. Bye.